come out of there. And what I'm going to show you now is called a Picasse. A Picasse is a streamer fly with a spey hackle. It was designed by a river guide over there called Marc LeBlanc. He fishes on the Grand Cascapedia, the Petite Cascapedia, Bonaventure, which are just wonderful rivers. You can't imagine what they look like, unless you've been there. And this fly was originally built on a very large single hook, and the day they tested it, they caught a lot of salmon on it. And they were guiding two French guys, two French Canadians from one of the more remote provinces, where the French language is unrecognizable really as French today. It hasn't changed much from the original French that went there back, you know, whenever it was. And they watched this fly go over the side, and it went down, and one of them said, "My God, that's like a Picasse." And the two French guys with him went, "What's a Picasse?" It's an anchor, an old name for an anchor. So this fly is called the anchor. It's built for durability. It's not. There's nothing flashy about this one, which I quite like. Some unusual materials for a salmon fly. It's like a crossover steelhead salmon pattern. It's interesting. The original fly, the body was black thread with clear mono wrapped over it for strength. But nowadays they use this black V-rib. This is a Partridge M2, single hook, very heavy for what it is. And over there they still use the turl knot a lot, so they always want a gap at the front of the hook so they can put a double turl on there and hold it so it doesn't bite into the head. So we leave a portion of the shank bare. This is black V-rib. It's like a vinyl, and its section is like a D, you know. So if your glasses are good enough, what's mine out?
It's an unusual choice for a body, isn't it?
Very, yeah. But the idea is it doesn't come apart, you know. It's quite an expensive fly to tie with the materials in it. So we're on a single hook. You've got this return eye. You've always got that step there that, you know, it's nice to get rid of. So we tie it in with the flat side against the shank, just behind that return, and keep it there on the side. And once you've got a few wraps here, GSP on there, you can start to stretch it, even though it's going on a bare shank. What this body actually adds to the fly, I have no idea, because it's a black hook with a black bit of plastic wrapped around it. But your wraps on this have to be really firm, because otherwise it'll slip and slide all over the place. Take it back to roughly where the return is. On this fly there's going to be a hen hackle, there's going to be two wings, there's going to be flash, there's going to be a spey hackle, and there's going to be another pheasant hackle. So you need a lot of room at the front to get all that in. Oop, broke straight away. It is. That's how you recover, innit? So actually, I suppose that's quite a... I don't know what it does. I really don't. But it's on every one of them. They tie these in different variations. The one everyone seems to know is a yellow Picasse, but they also do a green, an orange, and a blue. Tie this in nice and tight. And again with the GSP, this 50 denier, you can get that tie-off point down to nothing really. Okay, so the idea of these is mobility. So they want to keep them open. So as you pull on the streamer, it moves in the water. So if you put a wing on top of that now, and you get any sort of pressure on it, it just keeps it flush to the shank. There's not much movement, even if you use the, you know, the soft stuff. So we put a hackle in first to help keep that open, and some flash. So this is going to be a yellow Picasse. So we'll put in a yellow hackle, one this time. So again, this is a hen, a bit longer. There's the sweet spot, you can see it quite clearly on this one. On the side again, right over that point where you tied in the V-rib. Quite a full hackle there because you want that step to form to kick that wing up. Again, with every material we're adding now, we're adding on the bare shank. There's nothing there, just a couple of wraps of thread to start with. Then we need a bit of flash. This is just the micro crystal flash. You don't need much, probably 3 strands, say, which we're going to double into 6. So with this stuff, I just fold it in there, take 1 wrap over, fold it back, and a couple of wraps on it just to keep it in place. With any sort of flash, when you put it in, if you're putting it in a bunch like this, when it gets wet, it sticks together. If it's all the same length. So if you just chop those to different lengths, it'll stay apart more. So we just play with that, and it also sort of breaks the fly up a bit. You can see it's popping out already. See? So that's the flash. The wing, you can use fox, you can use runner, whatever you want really, as long as it's soft and mobile. This isn't a squirrel tail fly, although the original used bucktail. He did change it to fox in recent years. What have I got? I've got
natural fox.
Sorry, grey fox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is quite nice. It's long, soft under fur, nice big long guard fur. It's very, very mobile. And then under that we'll put some Arctic Runner in yellow. So the first one on there is the yellow runner. When I'm tying these flies in any number, the way I measure the hair is I put 2 pen marks on my thumbnail. It's generally about the width of the 2 return eyes. And then when I hold it tight in this hand, I pull it tight, and if it's any wider than those 2 marks, it's too much. So that's how I work it out.
Good thinking.
If you want the consistency, you've got to do it. So this first wing is about the length of the body, and this time I've left the underfur in. I've taken the long guard hairs out. It's a little bit too much. This is how John and I got talking about salmon flies. He had a fly in his box. He was saying, "This Canadian fly, my friend thinks it's great," and we go, "Oh, it's a yellow one. Which one?" And we're trying to work out what it was, aren't we?
Yeah, it's featured in Salmon Magic.
There.
But I can't remember the name of the author.
Is that Topher Brown?
Topher Brown, yeah.
Picasse.
He reckons it's the best fly ever.
They love it in Quebec. Again, just catch that tip in nice and tight. We're not worried about it flaring this time because we want it to really be in there and we want it to open out. There it is. Then we want the over wing, which is the fox. Another variant of this uses this fox but dyed black. I quite like the natural, you know, you've got the variegation in there, it's quite nice. So a good old clump of that with some guard hairs. You do need to get some of this, can you see that? You do need to get some of this soft underfur out. And this one I want quite long.
There's such a difference in tradition of flies? Because I think I'm right to say, the trend over here is to get smaller and smaller flies in the jar.
It does seem to be, people seem to be using smaller and smaller flies.
It's interesting though. If you look at them in profile though,
Yeah.
the overall length, even if you see cascades, you see piglet type flies, you see flamethrowers, etc. that's popular here. Even on a size 10, the fly is 2 inches long.
Yeah.
True.
And over here, sinking tips are common, sinking lines are common. Over there, sinking lines are illegal.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
So
yeah,
it's more of attractors than.
yeah. Well, I think it's more about the position in the water that you can fish. I mean, they're working within the limitations of what they can they can use. Sinking lines and treble hooks over there. They have real problems with snagging. With a big treble hook, lead wrapped around it, cable. I'll show you a video in a minute. The pools are so clear you can count every fish in there. They'll throw this treble in and pull them out. So it's illegal to have a treble fly in your box or a fly in your box with any added weight within 200 yards of any salmon river in Canada. You'll get locked up for it.
But Jim Teeny, he only fished
Steelhead,
steelheads.
British Columbia, yeah, the other end. Yeah, Atlantic salmon, the value of them, like Scotland, the value of them over there for the economy is, they really want to protect them, which is great. The first time I went over there, I didn't feel like I was doing it right because I didn't have doubles, I didn't have trebles, I didn't have heavy tubes. I couldn't bring, a sinking head.
But they're probably bigger rivers there as well, aren't they?
Not so much. You'd be surprised. Some of them, the Restigouche is massive.
Yeah.
It's like fishing the Severn down at the Severn Bridge, but shallow and clear. But the Petite, the Bonaventure, the Usk size.
Ah, okay.
But very highly regulated. Very to get on them, you have to enter a lottery. So they're divided into sections. So like if you want to fish next summer, now you'd be putting your name in, your name in, your name in, to get the draw to get on those rivers when you want them. It's not expensive. It's compared to Scotland, it's nothing. But it's regulated in the amount of numbers rather than what it costs. In Quebec, you can fish without a guide or without a gilly. You can get when you draw. Every pool is numbered. They're mapped on a map. You can just drive to them, park your car and fish. In New Brunswick, you have to have a guide. So it's illegal to fish without a guide. But like everybody in New Brunswick is a guide because it's a weekend course and pay $200 and you're a guide. So that's how they get around that one. It's very traditional. You follow through a pool properly. It's very gentlemanly. It's a lovely place to fish. It really is. Not as nice as the Usk, but yeah. So all this stuff we don't want. And you see on these hackles, one of the bad things about these hackles is how quick the stem gets thick. So you obviously can't wrap that. So where it does get thick at this end, for good, cosmetic effect, it's best to put another hackle in front of it to hide it. So just like any other hackle, we'll tie it in by its tip. This one I will stroke back because there's going to be so many fibres hanging out of this fly. In a minute you won't notice. And again, take the thread down onto the bear hook. Find that bit. And just do exactly the same. They wrap nicely. They're actually nicer than heron feathers. Not that I'd really know. But heron feathers do tend to stick out all over the place. I think Cookshill does have some legal source of heron now.
Homemade.
Who knows? Keep folding these back as you go. And you get that sort of characteristic space shape now. Couple of turns on the base shank with that butt end. There's one thing for sure, you know, the mobility in these is just incredible.
Pulsates when it's in the water.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I like this one. Then at the front, a bit of contrast, so another pale colour. So we'll use this is the silver pheasant. The original one he did had cheeks, you know, that's it, Argus pheasant, like the tippets with white, with a black tip. Argus pheasant, yeah.
Black and white stripes.
That's it. It had cheeks of that. But he stopped doing that a few years back and started adding a wrapped hackle. And these are like wrapping duck. Almost impossible to do it neatly. So what we do with these is strip them. So we take off the fluff. And if you hold the good side towards you, the feather fibres on top of the shaft you take away. There. So that's the side of the shaft you're going to wrap against the hook. Tie it in the same way. Again on the base shank. I'll fold this one back as well. And these do take a bit of encouraging, so you've got to mess with them a bit, but if you sort of bring them out perpendicular to the stalk, start wrapping, just keep them in place with the pad of your finger, and then they'll go. There you go. You can put as much or as little as you want on there really. So we're getting up to a nice sort of area for the head there, so I'll just finish off there. Again on the base shank. Let's see what we got. My toothbrush. The wife's toothbrush.
Put it back in the jar.
Yeah, that's right. So that's basically the Picasse. I say there's an orange version, and the green is a big popular colour over there, like Highlander green. So there's a Highlander green and blue. And then some jungle cock on this one, which is unusual for Canadian flies. It's not a common thing, which is a relief really. But again, these are very highly regulated over there. They're illegal cities, so you don't see them much. Quite a long one. These guys fold back. Finish off. We still got that space between the head and the eye, so you can seat in that double turl. The other thing I find interesting out there is the way they set up their leaders. Mostly they're using single-ended rods. You're starting to see sort of short spay rods out there now, but mostly sort of 9'6" or 10 foot, 8 or 9 weights. And they'll fish them with a 10-foot leader with a 10-pound tippet, and they're pulling out 30-pound fish all the time. You know, and they fish very, very light, but they take forever to land the fish. The guide's methods of landing the fish generally 30 yards downstream of you. So they're not fighting them in close like we would. You know, you walk the fish down onto the guide, who stood in the middle of the river with a great big net, and you guide the fish in rather than bring it up over the net, you know. But they do fish very, very light, and they also catch a lot of salmon on dry flies. And that's the most incredible experience because it's so far against what we do. And
these dry flies fish as you would fish a dry fly for a trout.
absolutely,
Right. So
yeah.
you cast up
upstream or down across, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you see a salmon coming off the bottom of the river and coming up and up and up and up and up for a dry fly that big that you can see across the river, you know. It's quite something. Really is. Yeah, they fish a fly called a bomber. I wish I brought some with me, actually. They fish a fly called a bomber. Great big deer here thing. Size 4, size 2. Lots of hackle. Looks like a floating cigar.
Yeah, and just it's not weight.
Pardon me?
It's not
Sometimes, you know, sometimes I've had them take, you know, you see the fish, so you're drifting over the fish, and they say, just show them the bomber, just a 4-foot drift, that's all.
Yeah.
So you splat it down. They want you to hit it down, you know, short drift, and then pull it off. But I've had them take as it's come round,
Yeah.
and you know, like a sea trout would.
Like a big
Yeah.
fly, yeah.
Yeah. I've actually got a video there, one taking one. And it's just, well, first time it happens to you, it's a bit scary, really. There's a river over there called the Bonaventure, which is one of the 3 of the most pristine rivers they have. And it's almost the accepted technique on there. And they fish very little else.
Is that lottery as well?
Yeah, the petite Cascapedia, Grand Cascapedia, Bonaventure. There used to be 3 private rivers, but the Canadian government bought them back and given them back to the people. I can't remember when, 70s maybe. And up until then, it was, you know, some of the most expensive salmon fishing in the world. The whole river system being controlled by a family. Now, there's none of that left. So that's our Picasse, the anchor.